Welcome to today's KM World webinar, brought to you by eGain. I'm Mary D. Ojala, Conference Program Director, Information Today, Inc., and I will be the moderator for today's broadcast. Before we get started, I want to explain how you can be a part of the broadcast. There will be a question and answer session, so if you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the Submit button. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been asked during the show, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. Our presentation today is titled Knowledge Hubs, the Missing Ingredient in Digital CX and EX Transformation. And all viewers will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card just for viewing today's webinar. And now let me introduce our speakers for today. Sam Hahn, Technology Evangelist, eGain Corporation. Natalie Davis, Knowledge Management Administrator, A-dec. And now let me pass the event to Sam Hahn, Technology Evangelist, eGain Corporation. Go ahead, Sam.
Mary D., thank you very much for that intro. It's good to be working with you again, and we have some exciting times, a brand new year. And for this particular discussion, I'm actually very happy to be able to bring along one of our very recent but very fascinating customers. And Natalie represents a team that's actually been working with eGain now for just about the entire deployment. I think it's been about a little over a year or so, maybe even two, I kind of forget. So our team was very engaged, and we thought rather than just hearing from us, it would be great to share the perspective of what it's like to work with eGain, what it's like to work with our version of what we think a knowledge hub is. So at this point, I'd like to invite Natalie to give an overview of what they've put in place and their experience with it. And then I'll end with some general remarks also. So Natalie, please take it away.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone. I am excited to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about eGain and knowledge and how it has worked throughout kind of the core of A-dec product support. So with that being said, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a background about A-dec, and then we'll talk about knowledge first and go through that process of how our organization has been transformed by the implementation of the eGain knowledge solution. So A-dec, you may be wondering, who is A-dec? What do they do? We are a dental equipment device manufacturer. So when you go to the dentist, if you look up and at the light that they're shining in your mouth, you may see an A-dec logo or the chair you're sitting in. Also, the delivery system that the doctor uses for his instruments is something that we manufacture. So there's various pieces of core equipment that A-dec manufactures in the U.S. and also on a global scale. So it was founded in 1964, and 50 plus years later, we are considered the leading manufacturer for reliable dental equipment. So that's A-dec. Now let's talk about knowledge at A-dec. It started back in 2008, just within our customer service organization. The leadership team in customer service really saw this need to capture this content that our valuable customer service agents have acquired over multiple years. So A-dec is known for having a really long tenure within our customer service organization. So people acquired this knowledge slowly, and it took a long time to onboard our employees. And so our leadership took this initiative to capture this, so when a tenured employee retires or moves on to something else, we didn't lose all of that valuable information that that person had. So it started in 2008, and it was just this collection of content and articles authored by our customer service agents. And then we had a knowledge management administrator at the time who kind of organized and really decided how to evolve the knowledge base. And it grew from no articles or content to over 5,000 articles and attached SharePoint documentation, between 5,000 and 10,000 documents that lived in SharePoint. Now, this first solution was an on-premise solution, and in order to update and keep current with technology, you would have to go through a pretty extensive process to update the technology. So over time, we fell behind a bit in the updates because the value of what was added in each update didn't necessarily justify the cost. But we came to this point where we had to make a decision. Either we had to move forward and update to the most current version or move on to another solution. So this was our opportunity to really decide, okay, what do we want this knowledge to look like within A-dec for our customer service? And some of the challenges, so then with that, we started, outlining the challenges that we face with our current solution. And some of those challenges were a solution that really worked on a keyword search, and you had to tag the article correctly. It didn't do a full content search. Also, all the documents were stored in SharePoint, so if you searched the knowledge base for something, it wouldn't produce or bring in a document that necessarily had that key term or keyword. And so we really struggled with finding the content. Now, we used it heavily still within our customer service organization because after you kind of learned how to search and how to use your keywords and knew your model numbers, then it was easier to find information. But optimally, this was not the best situation for either people outside of A-dec within our organization, or what we now wanted to do was bring some of this valuable knowledge to our partners. So A-dec works much like an auto manufacturer where they distribute their vehicles to a dealership. Well, A-dec also manufactures the equipment, and then our dealers sell and distribute and service our equipment. So with that, that interaction and that relationship with our authorized partners, we really wanted to give them a digital solution to be able to find information on their own without having to call customer service. And this was a future vision of how we wanted to see knowledge progress within customer service and bridging that relationship with our dealers. So that was another thing that was high on our priority list. The other thing with that, we knew our dealers are going to be in an office. They're going to be in a dental office, and they need to view this digital resource on whatever device they have at the time. And so having a responsive solution that adapts to whatever device they are using was very important to us. So these were all things that we decided that paired with our minimal support with our existing solution, and the existing solution not even being able to be device responsive, we decided it was time for us to explore other options. We created an RFP and outlined all our desires at that point, because if we're going to go out and search for a solution, let's outline everything. We did that and sent it out to about 6 or 7 different companies that had knowledge-based solutions, and eGain by far surpassed our expectations, what we thought we could achieve with a new solution. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Why eGain? What was it that surpassed my expectations and our expectation of what we wanted to do. So the first bullet point I'm going to tell you about is they have a very strong out-of-box capability. So of all of these deliverables that we wanted to achieve with our RFP, eGain hit the mark on out-of-box, meaning we didn't have to customize to achieve what we wanted to do. So that was a strong point for eGain. Secondly, their knowledge personalization, being able to take a piece of content and personalize it to the viewer without having to create and duplicate content, was really important. Lastly, I'm going to go through some of these features in the next several slides, but just at a high level, after we saw and evaluated all of the responses to our proposals that were sent out, eGain also had this innovation in 30 days, which was awesome, and no other solution provided this option where we could test it out. And so with no obligation. If it didn't work, it didn't work. There was no obligation. Now, Sam will fill you in on that a little bit, and I don't know if things have changed over the last couple of years because that was a while back, but you'll have an opportunity to come back in and talk about that later on in this session. So, but what I want to transition to and show you now, it's been 2 years since we implemented. We started with just A-dec employees because we had to migrate all of those 5,000 articles and all the SharePoint documents into the eGain system. And so I'm going to show you some of those features and how we've been using it and some of the favorite things that I love about the knowledge base we have. So, first of all, self-service. This was, our highest priority. We had so much valuable knowledge in the knowledge base for our employees. Let's share this. And we progressed over the several years and created these very smart articles that really provided about 75% of what you needed to know on a product. So I'm going to outline a few things on this slide. So the middle center screenshot, that's there to show you the device responsiveness. That's what you would see like on a desktop. On the left and on the right, both show you when you reduce the size of your screen, it minimizes down and adjusts to that. So that we were able to prove that in our trial and see what that would look like. A few other things that I really like about eGain is we were able to personalize this. We had a template, and so it has our logo and our colors and really adapt it to make it look like a digital resource. On the right side is what we call a product profile. So we have model numbers for all our equipment. And what is really important to us is that someone can quickly find information they need to know on that specific model number. And then there are various different things about that model number when they call customer service that one of our dealers may need to know. What are the standard features that equipment comes with? Service parts. There's other things in this article that you can't see on the screenshot, but we had adjustments, technical diagrams, and troubleshooting. So that is all contained in this one smart article. And the eGain system gave us a quick way to be able to access the smart article. Now, a few other things I want to highlight on this slide before I move into another feature that I love is it had breadcrumbs. What you see in there are accordions. If you're familiar with that, I was able to also put an image in front of a heading on an accordion. So if you would see on the right, I could put all images if I wanted to. The tubing that you see there, is a display of putting an image in an accordion, so that allows to give that visual representation of the knowledge they're going to be consuming, which to me, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So any way that I can drive and move someone to the correct piece of content by an image or by an easy navigation is very important. And that was one of the areas that eGain really excelled in, is being able to create that ease of use without necessarily having to search at the top. So that's what I'm going to explain in my next slide. So an image-driven taxonomy. This was important, that it was quick and easy for them to click through and find these smart articles that I was referring to earlier. So this kind of shows a path of how our dealers would navigate from one place, from the home of the self-service site to one of these smart articles. And it was very simple because it gives them an image of what they're looking for. The first is our delivery system up on the top left that shows you this is what the doctor uses when they perform certain procedures for the patient. Now, over the 50 plus years that we have many delivery units. So I had to break it down even further to whether this delivery unit was mounted on a wall or a cabinet, whether it's chair mounted or the side support center mounted. From there, they can quickly click on one of those, and then we have what this is called a topic home article. And I'm able to create these images and link to these smart articles. So without them having to search anything into the top search, they can quickly navigate to this smart article without knowing a model number by simply viewing the images and their general knowledge and understanding of A-dec and get to that smart content. So that was one of the things that I really loved about the eGain solution. Next, we have conversational AI guidance. Now, this is something that we have tested out, but only due to A-dec's limited capacity for developing it, we haven't done a whole lot with this. I would like to use this more in the future, but this is a really great way to take a complex navigation of a topic, if X then Y, this flow diagram or troubleshooting flow diagram, and give the user just a snapshot at a time of what they need to answer in that moment, and then navigate to the next step. So on the left side, you'll see, okay, we have this deluxe touchpad that maybe a screen is blank, or maybe there's no power. There's various different things that could affect this touchpad and be a service item. So the user clicks whatever they're experiencing. Then next, they get this guided step-through process of how to answer the next question and what you need to do next to try and resolve this issue. And so in this situation, on the right, or in the center there, you have a question. And then on the left, you are able to provide guidance as to how to answer that question and then select it. Now, on the right, you can see all the questions you've answered so far. And if you want to go back and change an answer, or maybe you clicked on the wrong thing, you can quickly go back and navigate to a prior question and change the sequence. Up on the top, this was early in the navigation, but if there is a solution provided, you also have an access to that solution article. So this is a really great feature that takes, for us, took some of these complicated troubleshooting scenarios and allowed the end user to take this step by step through the process without overwhelming on a large troubleshooting tree or diagram that would navigate them to where they need to go. So this is a feature that I also really like about the eGain solution. knowledge personalization. This was something I was very excited about because what I saw when I was researching different knowledge-based solutions is that many providers, you just had to recreate the content. And that defeats the purpose and becomes an extreme challenge to manage all of that content if you're having to duplicate. And for us, we reuse content all over the place. So that's something that I wanted to be able to keep it in one spot and then personalize it for the end user. So in these screenshots, what you see on the right is the authoring console. That's where you edit the content. And you can see I have some spots in the console that are highlighted in green. Anything highlighted in green is only viewable to an A-dec employee. Now, on the left, this is a screenshot of an employee actually logged into the portal view of this article. So they can see what an authorized partner sees, but they don't necessarily have to be logged in as an authorized partner to be able to see that and identify that, oh, the brochures were eliminated from that view. So the A-dec employee can quickly see with the tab view at the top what view they're looking at. Now, I don't have this screenshot in here, but if I'm an authorized partner, I don't even see those tabs. All I see is from that manufacturing down. And anything that is highlighted in green in the authoring console is not viewable in the authorized partner tab. So those are our dealers. Authorized partners are our dealers. So this was great because when I'm editing this article, I don't have to have two articles, one for an authorized partner and one for an employee. I can take the existing article and personalize it and make it viewable to an authorized partner. So with that being said, there's also many things you can do with personalization. That just touches the surface. I suggest if you have a specific need that you run that by someone at eGain, either your sales or even Sam, and they can explain all the capabilities of personalization because there's more beyond this as well. Next, another valuable tool for reusing knowledge are macros. Now, for us, I stated this before, but we reuse content all the time. And now I can have this content live in one spot, and I can embed it into all the articles that I want this message or this piece of content to display in. Then if we change that content, it will automatically change in all the articles that content lives in. And I don't have to go into every article and change it in each individual article, which is very important to us because we reuse content all the time. For example, in the top right corner, you will see this caution and this warning. Whenever we're working on a circuit board, this warning needs to be there so our technicians know that these circuit boards are sensitive to ESD. So we create this warning in one article, and then when you're in an article where you need to display this warning, all you have to do is hit the macro button, or actually, before I get there, on the general tab, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the content tab is displayed. 2 tabs over is a general tab. On that tab, you give it a name. And you can name that whatever you want. My recommendation, and this is something I wish we would have done, if you do go with the eGain product, that you have a strategy for your naming convention. So you know how to look up the name and to find the name. I wish I would have done that at the beginning, and now we're working towards that. But you give it the name, whatever you want it to be. So for us in this situation, it was ESD_caution. And you can do it two ways. You can put 2 accent marks and then put the name that you gave it, or you can hit this M+ button and then articles, and it'll give you a list of all the macro articles that you have, and you find the ESD, you click on it, and it will embed the name into the article. This article alone, you can see just there, I have 3 different macros. So I have reused, up on the top left is what you'll see. I clipped out in the portal itself where the customers and our dealers are viewing it. You'll see the ESD caution right below it, informational, clicking on the images, letting the customer know. And then the thumbnail, the third thumbnail you see farthest to the right, that is a light head that we use in 5 to 6 different models. So that piece of content is embedded in each of those smart articles. So this is a way for us to really just edit the content at the source, and it automatically updates in all the articles that contain that content, which is profound for us because of how much we reuse content. So those 2 are some really important features that have made a big difference in how we view and use knowledge. Next, eGain has really powerful analytics. This is something we didn't have in our old solution, and so what I have captured here is just a dashboard I created, and this just touches the surface. There's many different reports you can pull, automated reports. You can create these dashboards for the high-level things that you want to view. And you can work with your onboarding specialist to, see what you want to create in these analytics. So it's just a really great tool for us. I really have been able to see the progress and the usage for our web self-service, as well as our employee usage, and then some different areas of opportunity and engagement with our authors. So that's what I use it for. So how this has benefited A-dec, and this is where I'm going to tell you about our transformation. Before we implemented A-dec, before we implemented eGain, really the knowledge solution was primarily used by customer service, and they used it quite a bit because it required them to use it in order to find product support information. Since we implemented eGain, our sales team, so everyone out in the field, we only would have like 200 searches per month, maybe. We're over 1,800 searches per month from our sales team. That's an increase of 9 times what they used to do. The whole A-dec team, all A-dec employees, have doubled in usage of the knowledge base because it's easy to find information. Now, our PDF documents are now searchable. So anytime a product owner or an engineer wants to make a change to the product, they can go into the knowledge base and just search that part number and find all the pieces of information that need to be updated as well. It's also been really helpful for new engineers or new employees who need some of that background on the equipment, and it allows them to go in there and search and find that information. I see people searching that I don't even know who they are. Where before we switched to eGain, it was pretty much just customer service. So it's exciting to me to see these people organically using the site. Lastly, our dealer team. So we didn't have any option for them to search for a digital resource. for product support information. I mean, we had very limited stuff on our website, mostly just instructions for use, but nothing substantial from a technical standpoint. And our website was really geared towards sales, so our dealers weren't able to find much on our website for product support. So now we have over 2,400 or 24,000 views monthly, and it's exciting to me that they are engaging and organically viewing eGain, and I don't have to do a whole lot to advertise it. For us, we have single sign-on, so that's another feature that we utilize with eGain, but they have to register, and A-dec is working on improving our registration process. That's solely owned by A-dec and nothing to do with eGain, but that is the biggest hurdle for me, getting our dealer team into the knowledge base and into that support for them, is getting them through the registration process. After they're registered, you see sustained and increased usage. So we're continuing to work on this and develop different ways for them to engage. I have many sessions with our dealers, and I've received numerous feedback from them saying, thank you for making it easier to find this information that we deal with every day. And one thing that I stress with my dealers and with customer service is that this is a tool. Our number one focus is improving the customer experience. While reducing calls and SLAs is very important, and it's good to see those numbers. For us, we are a relationship company. When you call A-dec, you don't get an automated system. You get a live person right away. And that has been the core of our foundation, is that we build relationships. And when our dealers and our customers do call A-dec, they get that relationship from the beginning. And so that's important to us. And there's been times I do sessions with dealers to onboard them to the site, and they ask me these questions. Does that mean we have to use this first? And it's just, you can see this depression, not depression, but just like, I don't want to have to go here first. And my message is always to them, this is a tool. If this works for you, if you're able to find what you're looking for, we have succeeded. We are constantly looking how to improve the experience. And if you want to, you can provide us feedback, how to improve the experience and how to make this something that works for you. But our customer service team is always here for you, and that is our number one priority, that you are taken care of and that your issues are resolved. So you do what works for you. And most of them, when they're in there, there's a few people, because if you're a service technician, many of them are hands-on, and not all of them are driven towards technology and may struggle with that. So it's important for me to share that message that this is a tool and it's not the complete picture, and we work together. So with that, but I don't have to oversell the knowledge base. It sells itself. The growth has organically increased and will continue to do so. So if I continue to focus on that customer experience, it will fall in place, and those other numbers we will see. So what's next? A couple things. We are working to, we have a data extract option with eGain, which allows us to use the API to integrate with our quality management system. We're looking for other service solutions to potentially use that data extract. We also may look into integration or a widget within Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So those are some 2 areas that would be next. Down the road, we also required the solution to be able to be exported for translation because we are a global company. So down the road, we would like to move towards translation, but right now everything's in English only. So that's really what's coming down the road for innovation. And that was my presentation. There will be a Q&A at the end, so please feel free if you have those questions. Like Mary Dee said, you can type those into the box and we'll address it at the end. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Sam.
Natalie, that was a fascinating overview and some details also. Because I've heard from our team, they very much enjoyed working with you and your team, but to hear from you is exactly why we love bringing you a very good partner and customer and help deliver the message. Because, you know, what you're experiencing is hopefully what we'd love to do for everyone. And what Natalie said about relationships is how we would like to be engaged with each of you as well, okay? This is a different engagement than a typical software sale, right? So in a typical software sale, you're going to check a bunch of boxes, you're going to go through some ROI discussions, and you'll make your decision. In knowledge and in intelligence-based systems, you have to treat that a little bit differently. And we love the fact that, you know, Natalie's team, she herself, A-dec, understands that. And so we definitely like to engage in that way with our customers and partners. So I'm lucky enough to actually have been around at eGain in a number of different positions. I used to head the engineering organization, then I headed some new product development. And my title right now is technology evangelist, which means I'm lucky enough to engage in events like this and help spread the word with our partners about, you know, how we look at this particular set of services and how we can deliver value to others. Now, this is a particularly interesting event because everybody here is actually quite knowledgeable about knowledge. You guys have actually been implementing it, I suspect, yourselves. And so I just wanted to give you just our position in this space. We've been oriented at helping enterprises serve their customers better for over 2 decades. And the way we did that was less than 10 years, I would say probably 6 or 7 years after the internet became popular, and I'm talking about the late 90s. eGain was founded with the premise, the vision that the internet was going to go big, and we're kind of, you know, okay on that bet, and that this was going to be an exciting new channel for enterprises and customers to engage. Would actually then relieve a lot of the load on voice, would relieve a lot of the load on retail and face-to-face presence, because it was quicker, it was immediate. You know, you could actually route requests to exactly the right person. Okay, so we've been around for over 2 decades on that very bet. Now, not surprisingly, when COVID hit, can you imagine it's almost what, the 2-year anniversary of the COVID phenomenon right now? I think it's actually this week, if I'm not mistaken. When COVID hit, I like to sort of joke around and say, COVID kind of found us prepared. You know, it was the fact that that bet meant that all those retail centers, which could not then meet face-to-face with their customers, all those agents, in some companies it's hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands, okay? All of those agents now either had to find a new way to deliver value to their enterprises, or they were going to be furloughed. And that's, of course, sad for the customers, for the agents, and for the enterprise. And so what we were finding was that many of our customers were very quickly able to shift their retail and face-to-face agents to an online digital channel, typically chat to begin with, okay? And there's an extremely high success rate of people actually picking this up because the tool made it easy, and they could utilize their knowledge of the customer, their knowledge of the enterprise, their knowledge of products, and very quickly gain the skills with this platform so that they could continue to support their customers. And oh, by the way, when COVID hit, we saw traffic, we saw requests into contact centers at least triple. in many cases. Okay, so imagine that you had, a contact center which was challenged because you could no longer bring people to the actual physical location. You had to distribute the contacts throughout people's homes or temporary offices, and at the same time bring all of these previously non-digital agents into the digital channels and make them effective all in a very quick period of time. And through those analytics that we were able to see A-dec leverage, we saw that took place in a very small number of weeks. It's really kind of fun to see that with all of our customers. So anyway, that's a little bit about eGain. We started with chat, we started with email, and then over time have really made it quite a bewildering set of channels. It's now encompassing social, it's encompassing text and MMS, and all of the different channels you would actually expect, including video and co-browsing. So those are all the ways that we find the customers are really choosing to engage with enterprises now. We would like to talk about what kinds of investments companies have been making, because almost every company now understands that the way the company is viewed and experienced by customers is directly through those interactions, be it few or be it many, okay? And because contact with enterprises is now very frequently in the digital domain, the digital experience has an enormous impact on how customers view your enterprise, okay? So we want to talk about the investments that have been made there, the successes, the challenges, how we've been able to address those challenges in something we call a knowledge hub, which I think would be not surprising to most of you here, and then give you some real world examples. And of course, Natalie was one of those very specific examples, okay? So what was the state of digital experience? Well, a few years ago, what was big was digital transformation. And of course, that was accelerated by COVID. And what that really meant was every company had a plan to go digital. They had a plan to go and do chat. They had a plan to go do web self-service. They probably already had email, but all of that was going to get very much accelerated because of COVID, okay? So building out those channels now was something they had to do sooner rather than later, okay? But when you look at the customer experience and look at where they go and how many places they have to repeat, their visit, you still found that there were still some things that needed to be addressed. They were more engaged, they asked more questions, but why was it that the experience itself wasn't as, let's say, transformative as had been expected, okay? And what we found was that, and these are kind of extreme numbers, but they're actually from some very reputable sources, is that if you take a look just at self-service, sometimes it fails 90% of the time. And those of you in this particular session know that if you don't have the right material relevant to the query, of course, that's going to be a fail. And if you make it difficult for that content to be available, even if it exists, if you make it difficult to actually access and search, it's still not going to be a very good experience. And then you take a look at these metrics down at the bottom. When agents don't know the answer, when they can't easily get to the answer, and when different agents give you different answers, very frustrating, okay? And then, of course, when the thing is just very difficult to find, those all add up to this general malaise, this general dissatisfaction, even though the investment was made in those digital domains. So even agents, that was the customer view. This is the agent view. Agents said that it's knowledge-related issues. They can't find what they need. And although it sounds extreme, again, a very reputable source says 84% of these contact centers don't like their tools because they can't find what they want, make it difficult to actually give the customer a satisfactory experience. And now you talk about the business. If the customers are unhappy, if the agents are unhappy, then of course, you've got a failure in both those cases, but the business has additional issues to work with, okay? Remote workers, you've got to deal with that challenge, okay? And now, instead of coming back, many of them want to stay remote. This is actually one particular forum of digital customer engagement where that is actually possible. And so we provide that possibility for enterprises. And then now, even if people are coming back, they're still not coming back as frequently and in the fashion that was pre-COVID. Okay, and not only that, you find some of these people actually just retiring. They're not coming back. They say, I want to spend the time either working from home or I don't want to spend it on the road anymore. I did too much of that. Okay. And so, of course, the turnover is high, the training is impacted. So all of this makes it very difficult if you don't have a good way to, as Natalie said, transfer this knowledge from one expert to agents and then spread it effectively and make it high quality. Okay. So as those channels were being built, imagine that those pipes were being laid, right? So you're laying the pipe from the contact center to web servers, self-service, or you're laying the pipe to chat, or you're laying the pipe to Facebook Messenger, or you're laying the pipe to Twitter, okay? Now what you have to look at is what's going through those pipes. You don't want sludge going through those pipes. You want good, clean, healthy, good tasting water, i.e. the knowledge, okay? It needs to be nutritious, i.e. relevant and useful. And so look at that metaphor and say, now that those pipes are laid, now we want to make sure that it's high quality water, knowledge, content that's going through those pipes to its destination, okay? And that's now the next phase is even those analysts that I cited before say knowledge management, which won't be strange to you here on this session, is the #1 technology that can simultaneously elevate the customer, agent, and business experiences. So that's how important it is to get the right stuff flowing through those channels. And this rapid creation and retrieval, again, one of the things I want to introduce here, because many of you are familiar with knowledge management and a number of different dimensions, but we want to focus at eGain on at least a couple things that really, really draw our attention. One is that relevance issue, and the other, more interestingly, is the path towards relevance, the time to relevance, okay? If you make that relevant article, but you make it difficult to find, then again, it's not going to be an optimal experience for either the customer or the agent. So we want to focus on those metrics particularly. So let's talk about what it is in a knowledge hub. And this I want to spend just a little bit of time on. This is essentially the core. You want a single harmonized platform for managing knowledge, but in ways that can be leveraged across all of those channels, all of those agents, all of those customers, all of those business needs, all of those different kind of product types, all of those product taxonomies, all of those tagging solutions. And you need one that actually knows about all of those contents and has that built in to the knowledge platform, okay? You want a single author. In other words, put it once, create it once, personalize it, and this personalization, by the way, takes like 8 or 9 different dimensions, and that's when I actually last looked at it. It might even be more by now. But things like geographic location, product mix, language, seniority with, let me not cite that one. But some of our customers are actually experimenting with the ability to add new profile information to agents and to content and use that. We had a very interesting customer come and utilize, explore our personalization engine by saying, hey, in the Midwest, a lot of people like to go fishing. So if you have a chance, why not hook them up with an agent also that is a fisher person, okay? So it's that kind of way that you can actually personalize with no additional coding and then get richer interaction and probably a more empathic dialogue between agent and customer. This compliance issue is very, very important because by doing this properly and having your agents have a reasonable, very easy to follow way to understand compliance and make sure that the disclosures are followed, certain claims are caveated, etc. That's all very, very necessary for auditing purposes, and you guys all know this as well as anyone, okay? And then the ability to look back on the actual utilization, okay? I mentioned before that it has to be relevant, meaning when someone's search is actually done, it wants to come up with a successful hit. If you don't, that's the notion of search white space. You don't want search white space. That white space needs to be a way for you to commission new content because customers or agents are looking for it, okay? And then this last point is so crucial, is that one of our customers really, really succeeded because they made a promise to their users, both the agents and the customers. He said, if you have a suggestion for the way we do our knowledge management, we guarantee you a response within 24 hours. That way, people making suggestions knew that it wasn't going to be just sitting on deaf ears, okay? And that way, you can get very quick turnaround and actually improve your platform and your experience very, very effectively. So, again, just to talk about various different characteristics of a hub, it's delivered everywhere, okay? Now, the other dimension that I wanted to bring up, other focus, is typically when you think of knowledge, it's an article that's very carefully crafted, very carefully authored. But what I want to introduce is for over 2 decades now, we've had executable knowledge. What I really mean by that is this is knowledge that knows when it's relevant, knows when to present itself, and it's not coded that way. So in other words, we don't require knowledge authors to have fixed taxonomies and tree folders and tree paths and decision trees. No, what we provide are ways to ask questions and ways to encode those answers where the engine, based on what the conversation has already divulged, can say, okay, what's the next most important question to ask? Because that's the next most important filter for me to apply to get to the right solution or to get to the right knowledge article. So this notion of executable knowledge is, I think, one of our core pillars that we've been built on for over 2 decades. These process flows are kind of built the same way. Using the same engine, we can actually step through these wizards so that, let's say, we're solving a how-to process with a mechanical device or with a software problem, okay? In this same way, the diagnostics could be sequenced according to how the case-based reasoning engine says, okay, the next most useful thing for me to know would be this particular question, okay? 360 context, it basically means all the channels everywhere, all the people everywhere, all the different agent types everywhere. This profiling is very important. We already mentioned that. And by the way, these widgets are ways to deliver into lots of different portals, not just our portals, but third-party portal platforms as well, so that we can deliver the exact same knowledge into other portal platforms if you're using those. And more, just in the last few years, we've, not surprisingly, been leveraging machine learning to say, okay, what are the patterns of behavior that we've been seeing? Because we've got over 2 decades of experience now across a wide number of interaction types and millions, if not millions, of sessions, so that we can actually look at what the data really tells us. Okay, that's a knowledge hub. Okay, I'm running short on time, so I want to make sure that we talk about some of the key elements here. And this outside-in thinking, knowledge-based consolidation, I think I've already talked about. The search engine optimization, there's 2 aspects to that, okay? And one is making sure that the content exists. The second is making sure that when someone is looking for it in some other engine, okay, like Google, for example, you make your content known there, okay? Now, this is probably very obvious, but it's a way to funnel all of those requests into your knowledge management hub. The guided experience is the AI and case-based reasoning tool that I mentioned. The virtual assistant is another way to automate some of that so that we can actually have an automated dialogue delivering the same content, but in little bits and pieces in conversation format, okay? And then the contextualization is all the personalization I talked about with the 7 or 8 or 9 different dimensions on which you can slice the experience, okay? We do talk about this, and when done correctly, okay, you get delight, okay? You actually get, sorry, I think I'm going a little bit too fast, but I want to find the right slide to sort of conclude this introductory session, because I want to talk about a few specific case studies in addition to A-dec, okay? Here, Gartner is saying any of these dimensions could fail your knowledge management project. So we want to make sure that you're devoting adequate time and attention and investment into all of these things. And oh, by the way, why not leverage some experience gathered from the last 20 years, 24 years or so, okay? When done correctly, now you get it to be fun, okay? Now you get it to be easy, and now you get it, see, that very last point is where we really want to go, okay? Is to make things easy. Make sure that you understand how to do it. You can do it yourself without us, and then you can do it very quickly, okay? Okay, I think this is the slide I was looking for, okay? It's easy, it's fun, and as Natalie was able to say, it's delivering value. I like the word stunning. I'm hoping that that actually applies, okay? And that then leads to the transformation we were actually investing in a few years ago in building all of these pipes. Okay, so let's talk about how quickly you can get into this. I can't spend too much time in detail on each of these 7, but I want to make sure that you hear this, that as Natalie mentioned, our engagement with A-dec started with an innovation in 30 days offer, where we take 4 weeks, we say, just give us a couple of meetings and give us a couple of conversation times, and we'll essentially show you what this experience could be. We'll look at your website, we'll scrape some of the content, we'll give you that agent and customer experience, and at the end of 4 weeks, you just say, looks good, I want to follow up, or it says, not ready for it yet, maybe sometime in the future. That's how low risk it is. We take all the risk because we've had enough success with this that says we can actually do this effectively. Natalie also mentioned that I really love this. We were not looking for the minimum viable launch, the minimum viable product. We were looking for ways to basically delight Natalie and her team. And hopefully we've done some of that, and hopefully we're continuing to do that. But that's the relationship we'd like to have. Not that, oh, it's good enough, but wow, look at what it did, 9x, 2x. You know, those are the kind of things we want customers to say. There's a way to leverage all the existing resources you have, and you can actually think about whether you migrate them immediately, or whether you federate and migrate over time, or you always reach out to them and federate, or some of it you can be think about eliminating entirely. And we have mature processes, mature team partners who can actually help you do this. Okay, I think I'm dangerously short on time, so I'm going to tell you that the whole point to this is to engage in a conversation with us, that you can have the experience that Natalie and her team did, and we'd love to be able to offer this to you, to leverage our over 2 decades, almost 2.5 decades now, of experience for your particular domain, your particular customers. This is the contextualization that we talked about, and this is the search engine optimization. And I just want to follow up with a few key metrics. This is one where first contact resolution improved by 35%. Net promoter system score went up by 25%, not 25%, 25 actual real points. Their time to competence, their training time got halved, okay? And here's another one where the agent confidence in the answer went up by 60%, okay? And therefore, even the self-service increase, confidence increase went up by at least 30%, which resulted in some huge numbers in top line growth for this particular customer, Paylocity. Here's a government agency, the IRS. I think most of you have heard of this, okay? 70% of them are able to use our smart call interaction software and divert to digital channels rather than having these customers, these taxpayers wait on hold, okay? And agent engagement has gone up by 92% versus what the industry benchmark has been at 67%, okay? And then here's an insurance company, okay? 2,000 agents went remote overnight, and their performance was not impacted, okay? And also the training time for an agent went down by 33%. And here's a nice quote: all my agents love eGain's Knowledge 360, okay? So we want to give you this offer that in 30 days, we can show you this experience for your customers and your agents, and hopefully we'll get into some very interesting conversations. And I really apologize for spending so much time on these slides. There may not be time for Q&A, but we will collect all of your questions and respond to them on email. I make you that promise, but I really apologize for taking so much time because I was so enthused by what Natalie said. I was so enthused by her enthusiasm and her quality of experience that I kind of got carried away. So Mary D, my apologies, back to you.
Oh, that's okay, Sam. Let me slip in one really quick question here for Natalie. Do you train from the knowledge base, and did your training time decrease after you implemented eGain?
Sure. So we started training and utilizing the knowledge base during training and for training before we even implemented eGain. And so that's where we saw this substantial reduction, just having a knowledge base in general to capture that information so people can find it and don't have to memorize all of it. Mm-hmm. And we used to take 6 to 12 months to train because we had so much equipment without a knowledge base, and it went down to under 12 weeks. So we still continue, and even now with eGain, we have mentors that use the knowledge base to train, but it's kind of like an open book. And so it doesn't take nearly as long to train.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks. And we are out of time for questions, and we apologize we were unable to get to all of them. But as I stated earlier, all questions will be answered via email. So I would like to thank our speakers today, Sam Hahn, Technology Evangelist, eGain Corporation, Natalie Davis, Knowledge Management Administrator, A-dec. If you would like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same URL that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, you will receive an email with the URL to view the webinar once the archive is posted. If you would like a PDF of the deck, go to the handout session once the archive is live. And just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 Amazon card. The winner will be announced on March 31st. We will reach out via email if you are selected as this month's winner. Thank you for joining us.